In this next part of our session, I'd like to talk to you about a brand new Bestow initiative. It's something that's really dear to my heart, and it's something that I'd like to invite you all to be part of. I've invited my two sisters, Denise and Robin, to be with me during this session. So we're going to go on a bit of a journey. I'm going to start with some stories, and all will become clear. I just want to show you, this is a photo of us when we were young. Sorry to spring you on that, you girls. Check out the hair. We were the height of fashion. Robin was the little one, and she's the only one who kind of got away without looking like a complete dork.
Are you in the middle?
I am. What was she thinking? A few of you may know about the amazing work that my sister Denise does protecting rural girls in Cambodia through the trust that she set up many years ago called the Cambodia Charitable Trust. I'd like to start by telling you a little bit about Denise's story. Denise has always been a rescuer of souls. And so when we were little girls, Denise would bring home all of the kids from school that had no other friends, and they would come home to play at our house. And Mum always used to say that Denise's little friends often smelt vaguely of pee and often had nits in their hair. I'm pleased to say she's moved on and all her friends are very clean these days. Over time, Denise grew up and she became an incredibly successful lawyer. She married and she had two beautiful girls. And she had a really good life, but she always felt that there was something more she was supposed to be doing. She just didn't know what that was. Over the years, Cambodia kept appearing on her radar. And then one day she read an article about little Cambodian children being rented out on a weekly basis for sex. And she was shocked and sickened. And she wanted to know how she could help. So she started travelling to Cambodia, looking for ways that she could be of service. She thought a lot about the part that she could play. She decided that she could help most by making sure that girls in rural Cambodia weren't as vulnerable to these sex traffickers in the first place. So she started investigating the schooling system, and she was shocked at what she found. Schools that were in real disrepair. There were no teaching materials, there was no pens, no pencils, no paper, there was nothing for the teachers to teach with. There were very few girls that attended school, mainly boys. And there were no toilets and no fresh running water. Can you imagine that, with hundreds of children at school? So she set up the Cambodia Charitable Trust in 2008 with the sole purpose of promoting the education of children in Cambodia, especially that of the young girls. On one of her trips, you can imagine these trips are quite grueling. She works long hours, it's hot and sticky, and she decided to have a little bit of R&R. And you'll be pleased to know she decided to go to a beauty therapy clinic or a spa. And when she was there, she was talking to the young therapist who was doing her treatment. And when Denise asked the therapist about her life, she found out that her parents had been tricked into handing over her 15-year-old sister to sex traffickers. And they thought, when they sent this daughter off, that they were sending her to a better life. And how these agents work is they come into these villages and they put on an amazing presentation about how these girls can go off and get jobs as nannies or cleaners, and that they would earn so much more money and they'd be able to send money back to help the family feed themselves, and they'll be able to come home in the holidays and visit their families, and here's some phone numbers that you can ring to speak to your daughter. And then when they try to ring, those phone numbers don't exist, and that girl has disappeared into thin air. And they thought she was going to be safe because she went with all her friends. They clean out whole villages of girls of a certain age. And so slowly it dawned on this family that something terrible had happened to their daughter. And this therapist was absolutely distraught, and she said to Denise, "Please, can you help?" And Denise was straight away, "Yes, I will do everything I can." And she called on all her contacts, she called on all her resources to try and locate this girl. But deep in her heart, Denise knew she was gone. She was never going to be found. And although she couldn't help this young girl, it made her even more determined that she was going to help stop this despicable practice. And I can remember when Denise came home from that trip, and we used to worry about her going to Cambodia, this third world country, on her own, but she would do it all the time. And she came back on this particular trip and she told me that story, and it cut me like a knife. And I don't know what it was about that particular story, because she told me lots of stories, but that story resonated with me, and maybe it's because I'm a therapist and she was a therapist. But it was at that point that I reached a turning point, and I said to Denise, "Denise, tell me what I can do to help." Over the last 9 years, Denise has protected so many young children from a very sad future. She has given them the gift of education. She now literally has thousands of little people under her protective wings. The law firm, Lyon O'Neill Arnold, which Denise is a partner at, very generously covers all of the costs of all of the administration. None of the Kiwi volunteers, they all pay for their own expenses, and none of them draw a salary, and that includes Denise. So this makes this trust really unique, where every dollar donated goes directly to changing those children's lives. It's not some 10% or some percentage, it's 100%. As Denise's sisters, Robin and I have had a front row seat to the work that she does. And I'll tell you, she punches well above her weight. You know, there's big charities in Cambodia and a lot of third world countries that do not achieve what Denise achieves on a relatively small budget. And she's received national recognition because of this. In 2009, Channel 1's New Zealand Story produced a documentary about Denise's work in Cambodia, and this helped raise awareness. Also, Teresa Gatting, who's Telecom's ex-CEO, and she's also more recently been one of the partners in My Food Bag. She is now the patroness for Denise's Trust, and Nadia Lim is one of the ambassadors. And while Denise is incredibly grateful to these wonderful women for their support, it really is the ordinary Kiwi woman that sponsors girls that is the true hero here. They are the ones who collectively make it possible for Denise to change the future for rural Cambodian children, one girl at a time. As you can probably imagine, the trust is a big part of our extended family life. At family gatherings, it's like the fourth child. It really is. You know, the subject always turns to Cambodia. In 2015, Kevin and I, my husband, we went to Cambodia and saw Denise's work firsthand, and it was a really incredibly moving and humbling experience. The Janine Tate group sponsors 6 Cambodian girls through Denise's Trust. So each girl, I pay $40 a month, and this allows her to go to school. It helps feed her family. It gives her a crisp white shirt and a lovely blue skirt to go to school in, because a lot of these kids have rags or a little sarong. And it gives her pens to write with and paper to write on. And it really secures her future, and it protects her from the sex traffickers. We feel that these Cambodian children are part of our extended family. They're like our little sisters. I choose to do this because I know that we make a difference. I do this because I can, and I do this because I know it matters. For many years, Robin, my sister, or our sister, has been selling secondhand books online to fund playgrounds for these children's schools. I guess you could say this is a family thing. It's something that we're all passionate about as sisters. I'd now like to ask Denise to come and speak to us about the work that she does.
Hello everybody. It's a real honour and a privilege to be with you all today, and thank you Janine for that amazing introduction. I'm already getting a bit tearful, sorry. I'm very proud of my sister Janine and her passion, and following that passion for inner health and natural beauty. She's committed to helping us understand our bodies and how to care for our skin, and I'm in awe of her expertise in skin health and what she has achieved in her ongoing quest for knowledge. She's an amazing, intelligent woman, and I love and admire her greatly. But she's also a loving, kind, and protective sister, and I'm grateful to her for blazing the trail for me. In more ways than one, I often turn to Janine for advice and guidance. She's always there with her love and support and helps me clarify my thinking, which often takes a great deal of patience and restraint. She's a great mentor. And Robin, you're a rock for both of us. You're our glue. Robin is generous, capable, and unstinting in her loyalty, but she's very humble. You must know her. She's very humble, and she does not easily see her own value. She's a great sister and a terrific mother. But also, she's always ready to help and support us in whatever way she can. Robin makes things happen. She's the person you go to when you need help. I'm a huge fan of hers, and she's someone whose opinion matters to me. She makes me laugh, and she helps me remember the little things when I need to be grounded. So I'm very, very grateful for my sisters. There is more slavery in the world today than there was when slavery was legal. It's pervasive. It surrounds us without us even knowing it. And it's one of the most lucrative businesses on the planet. The trade in human beings is worth more than the trade in drugs. And if slavery isn't a heavy enough topic, let's talk about poverty. There is so much poverty in this planet, where there is riches, overindulgence, obesity, and consumerism. And poverty is crushing. It's exhausting. For me, poverty and slavery have no place in a future I want to be part of. I want to create a world where they no longer exist. The simple truth is, it takes very little to lift someone out of poverty, to give them a chance at a better life. The corner of the world where I feel compelled to make a difference is Cambodia. For those who don't know much about Cambodia, I'm going to share you a little bit of its sad history. Pol Pot and his communist Khmer Rouge movement led Cambodia in the years 1975 to 1979. During those 4 years, between 1.5 and 3 million Cambodians were killed out of a total population of between 7 and 8 million. The whole social structure of Cambodia was destroyed. Anyone who was educated or who was in a position to be able to educate others was killed. And the whole push was to create a whole country of labourers. This lack of teachers and leaders is going to make it very, very difficult for Cambodia to get on its feet again. There's a whole missing generation. That is why education is absolutely vital, especially education for girls. World-respected economist Jeffrey Sachs measures the impact of education on a girl this way. He says, an educated girl marries later. She marries a better quality of husband. She has children later, and at that time her pelvis is big enough to allow her to deliver them safely. Those children survive childhood, and they go on to be educated themselves. So an educated girl is a pivot point. She contributes, and she becomes a valued member of her community. Queen Rania of Jordan says, when you educate a girl, you empower a nation. And I believe that's true. Every time I get up to speak, I'm so aware of the responsibility of being the spokesperson for the girls in Cambodia who cannot speak for themselves. I'm just their conduit. There are so many stories that I could tell you, but today I'm going to tell you just two. These two stories are a reminder to me of what is at stake, and they keep me going. One of them is a positive and hopeful story. But the first is a sad story. It's a hard story to listen to, but it needs to be told so that you understand why I cannot help but help these children, and why I'm asking you to help me help them. The stories of these young women can lead us to the light, and they need to be honoured. So let me tell you the story of Sapao. Sapao was born into a poor family in rural Cambodia in a province called Kampot. Her father died when she was young, and her mother had to leave her and her brother in the care of her grandmother while she went and found work. She could not afford to come home to visit her children, and the money she sent home was never enough. Sapao started school at 6 years old. She had to walk several kilometres in the intense Cambodian sun to reach a school that had no water or toilets, no pens or paper, to sit in a classroom with broken floors and a blackboard you could hardly read from. Despite all that, she loved school. She was never particularly bright, and because she had to help her grandmother plant and then harvest the rice, she missed a lot of school. She was required to repeat grades, but that never really bothered her. It wouldn't have occurred to her that her teachers had few teaching skills and nothing to teach with. She was happy, and she spent what spare time she had playing soccer with the neighbour friends. But as she grew older, she needed more food, more clothing, and school books, and her grandmother couldn't work anymore. The food she managed to grow was never enough. Sapao had to work whenever the opportunity presented itself, so she could help to earn money to feed her grandmother, herself, and her little brother. Her absences from school increased. One day, some people came to the village with the offer of work in the city. When Sapao heard of this opportunity, she decided to drop out of school and take this chance to better herself. She was told she would earn enough money to be able to send money home for her grandmother and brother. She could study, she'd have plenty to eat, and she'd live in a nice apartment. All the details would be taken care of for her. However, when Sapao left, she was taken to Malaysia. She was placed in the home of a man and his 2 sons. No one knows the full details of what happened behind closed doors, but Sapao was beaten, raped, starved, and horribly abused. She was a sex slave. A dog was set loose on her at one point. She lived a terrible existence, away from her home, her family, and unable to call for help, even if someone could have understood the language. She was invisible. Can you imagine her life, locked behind closed doors? No one to witness how you're treated, no one to help you. I just can't imagine how terrifying that must have been. When it became clear to her abusers that nothing more could be taken from her body, that everything she had been wrenched from her and her very soul was broken, that she was so damaged she would die, she was sent back home. Her grandmother could do nothing for her. She could not afford medical care or doctors. She couldn't even afford decent food. There were no medicines, hot baths, or soft beds for Sir Paul's broken body. Her story found its way to me, but 2 weeks too late. She had already died, and she had died an awful death, broken, sad, and despairing. The laughing girl playing soccer with her friends was no more. Her story haunts me because I wonder, could I have helped her recover? If it was just 2 weeks earlier that I was there. Some of the rumours of what had been done to her I could never repeat. They were just so shocking. So perhaps she was beyond saving by the time she came home, but I'll never know. Sadly, Sir Paul's story is not unusual. Her story is confronting, not just because of what happened to her, but because it calls us out. Because we can help girls like Sir Paul. It's in our power to change their lives and keep them safe. I am here to speak for Sir Paul and for all the other girls in this position. I know it's overwhelming and it's sickening to hear stories like this. It can lead to paralysis, a feeling of, well, what can I do in the face of such darkness? One day when I was feeling overwhelmed, my mother-in-law told me of a saying of Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "It is better to light a candle than curse the darkness." I cannot solve it all, but I can play my part. I can light my candle. And if we all light our candles, imagine the light that we can shine together. The biggest factors that make children vulnerable to trafficking are poverty and ignorance. I know we can combat these issues through education. Education is the key. Education changes lives. So to contrast Sir Paul's story, I'd like to give you an insight into the life of one of our sponsored girls. Meet Lee Sedar. Sedar is one of the 6 girls sponsored by the Janine Tate Group. And it's girls like Sedar who give me hope for the future of Cambodia. Let me tell you about her life. Sedar is 13 years old. She's a quiet, happy girl who lives with her mother, her grandmother, and her mother's brother who has a disability. The village chief is her mother's cousin, and the family has lived in this area for a long time. Sedar's house is a simple, rectangular shelter made of wood and tin. The house sits sturdily on stilts made from palm tree trunks. Sedar's 63-year-old grandmother is very agile, and she has no problem getting up and down the ladder, although we might. The floors upstairs are made from slatted wood, and they're carefully swept. Sedar's mother and father are divorced, which means that Sedar's mother works doubly hard, doing all of the jobs that normally the mother and father would share. She collects and cuts the firewood for the cooking fire. She cuts the long grass to feed the bullock. She feeds the animals, she feeds the family, and she looks after the grandmother. Although slight of build, she's a strong and resourceful woman. Sedar goes to Ong Samar Secondary School, which is a 2-kilometre bike ride across muddy tracks. Sometimes she shares her bike with a friend. Sedar's school is supported by my trust, which means it's well-resourced. Unsupported schools are quite heartbreaking to visit. The teachers don't have as much as a scrap of paper to teach with, no books, the classrooms are dark and dingy, and there is no clean water or proper toilets. In stark contrast, the schools that the Trust supports are clean and bright, with colourful pictures of children's work decorating the walls. There are good toilets, clean running water, there's a school garden and a well-stocked library. There are desks, chairs, books, pens, paper, and happy, engaged children and teachers. The children and teachers are so appreciative of the help they're being given and for the opportunity to carve out better lives for themselves. Cedar enjoys school, and her favourite subjects are maths, English and Khmer, which is the Cambodian language. And she has been rated first out of a class of 30, which Janine is very proud of. Bit of an overachiever, is Janine. Yeah. It's a bit of a relief, actually. She takes extra English lessons 5 or 6 days a week, and those English lessons are between 6 and 7 p.m. at a teacher's house in the neighbourhood. Cedar's mother and grandmother cannot read or write, and out of Cedar's family members, the chief was the only relative who could read or write. Cedar reads very well. Her cousin Camille lives next door. She's 11 years old and in grade 6. Although she's younger than Cedar, she's just as tall. They're great friends, more like sisters than cousins. The two girls ride their bikes, fish, do their homework, read books, and walk arm in arm together. In the evenings, Cedar's mum goes to a neighbour's and the grandmother goes to bed, but Cedar stays home to study by the light of a single bare light bulb run by a battery. Sometimes the battery runs out, and if this happens, Cedar goes to her uncle's house to study as he has solar lights. Cedar would like to be a doctor or a nurse when she grows up. She says that Cambodian doctors can sometimes come across as mean or intimidating, and she wants to be a kind doctor. But she also wants to make a lot of money, so she's a clever girl. Cedar's mum is determined to help Cedar get an education. I have found that mothers are the same everywhere. They all want the best for their children, and they want their daughters to live in a world where they can develop to their fullest potential. Cedar's mum makes sacrifices at home to free her daughter to study. When we asked Cedar's mum what the best thing in her life was, she said it was the happiness she gets when Cedar does well in her studies. She hopes Cedar can get a good job, and she's happy for Cedar to choose her own career path. It is difficult for her, providing for the family and farming alone without having a husband to help her. She's responsible for finding enough money to feed Cedar and the grandmother. She lies awake at night sometimes, worrying about what might happen if there was no sponsorship for Cedar's education. She says that she would probably have to borrow money if Janine wasn't supporting them. Microfinance companies are a real problem in rural Cambodia. Loan rates can be anything up to 60% interest per annum, and they are crippling the poor, lining the pockets of the microfinance companies and increasing rural poverty. It's a real problem. The $40 a month that Janine Tate Group provides to Cedar's family is helping a bright, determined young girl to thrive and to pursue her dreams. It's relieving the stress on her mother, who works hard in impoverished conditions and dreams of a better future for her daughter. And Cedar is just one girl among over 300 children that are being sponsored through our trust. One bright light shining hope in her community. So I stand here before you today on behalf of many more girls in Cambodia who we could help with your support. I stand here on behalf of these children, honouring Sapal and all of the other children we've been too late to help. We must focus on the good we can do, what opportunities we can create. We are very fortunate to have privileges and the freedom we have here in New Zealand. The world is so imbalanced, and women in Cambodia are born into poverty through no fault of their own. I believe it's my responsibility to give these girls the same chances to succeed that I was lucky enough to have as a girl, and to offer them the same care and protection that I would offer my own daughters. I'd love you to light your candle and join it with mine, to add your compassion to my compassion and your resources to my resources. I'm very grateful to my sister Janine for the chance to speak with strong Kiwi women like you who believe in well-being for all women. I know that together we could make a genuine difference for these girls. Thank you for listening to their stories and their voices today.
Thank you, Denise. For several years now, I've had a dream to widen my family to include all of you. I've often wondered what we could achieve if we took this little sisterhood of Denise, Robin and I and expanded it to become a national sisterhood of women. To help this dream become a reality, I'm pleased to introduce you to the Bestow Sisterhood. The Bestow Sisterhood is a collective of beauty therapists and skincare clinics throughout New Zealand who are creating a brighter future for rural Cambodia. Our whole ethos as Bestow therapists is about women and wellness. It's about caring for people so that they can thrive. You already do this on a daily basis for the women in your care. I'm inviting you to stretch your heart open even wider and consider caring for a little sister that you'll probably never meet. Our dream is for every Bestow clinic to sponsor at least one little girl through Denise's charity. For just $40 a month, your business can change the future for one Cambodian girl by sponsoring her education. And through education, girls are protected and given the opportunity to develop happy, healthy, purposeful lives. I'd just like to ask Robin and Denise to come and stand with me while I read the Bestow Sisterhood Manifesto. The Bestow Sisterhood is about women helping other women. The Bestow Sisterhood is what happens when we realise our collective power to make the world a better place. The Bestow Sisterhood is about socially conscious business with a local and global heart. The Bestow Sisterhood is about championing women, wellness, social justice, and challenging poverty and slavery. The Bestow Sisterhood is about opening our hearts a little wider to care for a little sister in Cambodia. When we open our eyes and our hearts, we begin to understand that we're part of a global sisterhood. Every woman is our sister. We can help the woman down the street from us, and we do, and we can change the life of a girl in rural Cambodia we will never meet. Both matter. We love to see women helping women, and we'd love you to become part of the Bestow Sisterhood. Thank you. Denise can make an extraordinary amount of difference with any support she can get. For a small amount of money each month, your clinic could change a girl's future and save her from some very sad scenarios. I feel really confident in recommending this as a good way for your business to make a difference. In a world that is fractured and hurting, it's powerful to stand on the side of love and play a redemptive role. It feels good to give. It's also good for business. People love to support businesses that do good. In the same way that the public has driven demand for holistic skincare, consumers today are both choosy and vocal about supporting businesses who have ethical practices and who promote social justice. Your clients love to know that you stand for something greater. In fact, we were at a conference a couple of weeks ago, and Denise shared the podium with an American keynote speaker, and she was incredibly interesting. And she was talking about how the millennials, so those that are under 25 years old, are driving the public conversation around ethical business practices. She said it's becoming really difficult in America to do business if you don't stand for something greater. Becoming part of the Bestow Sisterhood gives you a really easy way for your business to participate in evolving social consciousness. Each clinic who sponsors a Cambodian girl will automatically become part of the Bestow Sisterhood. You'll receive a poster for your clinic with the picture of your little sister on it. You'll also receive material for your website and social media channels, which enable you to promote the socially conscious part of your business with your clients. Because the Trust is a registered charity, all of your donations are tax deductible, so you get 33% back. We've also created a special Sisterhood tea designed to raise funds for the Cambodian Charitable Trust. You're already familiar with our other organic teas. We've got 4 of them. We're about to have 4 of them now. Well, this is a new one. It's called Generosity. Do you like that? Oh, actually, maybe Catherine came up with that. So, to celebrate the launch of the Bestow Sisterhood, we are going to release Generosity next month. This beautiful rose-coloured herbal tea has the flavours of lemongrass, peppermint, hibiscus, cinnamon and cardamom. It's really delicious. It's a very delicate tea, and the lovely flavour of the lemongrass with that very Asian connection reminds us of our little Cambodian sisters. All of the Bestow profits that we make from selling this tea to you will be donated to the Cambodia Charitable Trust to help them support their wider projects, which are the support of the schools and the food gardens and the health projects that they run in rural Cambodia. So each time you take a sip of your Generosity tea, you'll be reminded that you're part of a sisterhood of women who are supporting the well-being of little girls in Cambodia. And here's a thought for you, ladies. If you sold just 1 Generosity per week through your clinic, that profit that you get from that would cover the sponsorship of 1 girl. I'm just saying. So we're going to enjoy the Generosity tea for this afternoon, for our afternoon tea. So where to from here, ladies? We've been on quite an emotional journey. My team are going to hand around forms if you would like them, or there's forms at the table at the back. Denise and Helen, her very efficient 2IC, will be at the back table, and if you want to ask them about the trust or you have any questions, if you would like to be part of it, just fill out this little form and either hand it over to Denise or Helen or to one of our team, or we've got a little box that you can pop your forms in. So on behalf of Denise, Robin and I, and on behalf of my little sisters in Cambodia, I'd just like to thank you for your open ears and your open hearts today. If you would like to find out more about the Bestow Sisterhood, just check out our webpage, which is going to be live by Tuesday. Thank you for your attention, ladies. Enjoy your afternoon tea. It's ready to go.